All right, welcome everyone to AbbeyCast. We have Father Carl Braschoss back with us again today. This is the second time you've been on AbbeyCast, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So early on, I think I was on.
Yeah, we had a conversation. You were one of probably the first 3 or 4 episodes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's great to have you back. This time our episode is going to be oriented toward the ministry that you are now in. Last time we spoke with you, you were in the ministry as pastor at St. Gabe's Parish in South Philadelphia, and now you're in a new role. So, Father Carl, would you want to tell us a little bit about where you are now and how you're serving?
Yeah, I'm at Immaculate University, which is run by the Immaculate Heart of Mary Sisters. It's about 15 minutes west of here, and it's a university of roughly, I'd say, about 1,200 undergraduate students and about the same in terms of graduate students. And I'm the chaplain there at the university, which is basically focused on serving the students sacramentally primarily, and then doing some faith formation, and then also being a chaplain to the sisters. So it's kind of a split role in a way. So,
yeah. You're wearing many hats for sure. And I had the great opportunity to go and visit Father Carl and his element on campus at Immaculate University. Today, it's March 12th today. It's Saturday, March 12th. We linked up at the end of January.
Right.
We had a nice day at the end of January. Today, if you're watching our video, you can see there's a snowstorm outside. But we had a nice January day where we could walk around on campus. You could show me the different sites to see the different buildings and whatnot. So we have some video B-roll footage here we're going to play in our studio. I'm going to overlay this video on top of the final video cut for our folks at home. But here Father Carl's in his element in the campus ministry office. And you work with Sister Laura Downing, right?
Right. Yes.
And what is her title at the college?
She's the director of campus ministry, and I believe she's also a theology professor as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, and she was great. I had the opportunity to sit down and have a little bite to eat with Sister Laura and some of your students.
And she's going to be the speaker at the Triduum this year for the Abbey. So
that's right. A very appropriate point for us to give a plug for the Triduum here. Always, kind of what the Abbey is known for, the Triduum. Its services, and if you'd want to stay over, then there's an opportunity to come to some conferences too. So you're kind of doing your thing here in the campus ministry office. It looks like a
5-penny tour here.
Right? Yeah. No, it was great just to kind of be with you and go around. I had some great footage of you with over at your desk with like djembe. But what are like some of like the natural ways that you find yourself on campus getting involved with the students, like where it's not like a structured thing like a retreat, or like a holy hour, but it's just an organic interaction? How does that come about for you?
I guess I've been trying to, I don't know how organic it is, but I've been trying to take the opportunities just where the students are. That I see them often is when they eat something in the dining hall. So to try to go in there lunch times, and there's really not a lot of faculty or administration or staff that are there. So I try to go and sit with people that are perhaps solo, and just to kind of get to know them a little bit.
Nice.
And that's a way to just, at this point, engage with people and get to know their names and stuff like that. So
for sure. And I got some footage here of you in the dining hall. I'm trying to pull it up. Looks like this is that. Oh, here we go. Entering the dining hall. That was a nice space. It's always nice to see buildings when they are full of young life like that, college students. What's your go-to at the Immaculata Dining Hall? Do you have a favorite food? They do anything exceptionally well?
Their salad bar is not bad, but it's a mixture of, because I like the food at the Abbey, so often I'll bring like some leftovers.
Oh, gotcha.
But then, I'll also get their food. So, food's okay.
Yeah. College campus food.
Yeah, but the dining hall's laid out well, and I think that the number of students per the space is good. It doesn't feel like overly crowded in a way, so I think that's good.
Yeah, that's a good number of students if you're looking for that sort of college experience, But that's what I'm familiar with, and my undergrad experience was right around 1,200 undergrads, 2,000 total with the graduate students. A familiarity. It was described to me one time as being able to recognize somewhere everyone you went, but then also seeing someone new every once in a while too.
Right. And I'm still definitely in that phase, but it's trying to be, just be a presence to the students, and that's an easy way to do it.
For sure. This was a cool room here that you took me into. It was a music practice suite, right? Or suites.
Right.
And I guess they're building up the music program is pretty well known in Immaculate.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And this is like a practice area.
Mm-hmm.
And this, again, these are types of things that I hope to be able to get into classrooms, visit classes, visit things. Because, again, I think the ministry of presence is a key thing. Before you can really engage with students, you have to have a base of understanding of what their life is like.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to do that. There's been opportunities to be at like some events, like the Carol Night is a big traditional thing they've done for 100 years.
Okay.
And just presiding and stuff like that. But more, especially now as we move into like the chaplaincy role with athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to be responsible for the baseball team, which is good. I used to play baseball, but more directly being like a more regular presence to them in terms of like being there for prayer, being there just for watching the games and so forth, and trying to help out in whatever way I can and support them. So
yeah, that's great.
So.
Now, when you are taking on a new ministry like this, how does that work internally, like within your religious community? Are you assigned that? Are you given a choice? Like, how does that work?
Well, it's a mixture.
Okay.
I think about a year ago, I was at St. Gabriel's and feeling the strain of at least about a year or more of just being solo there, and some personal challenges. I'd lost my father during that period, some other things, and just realizing that was not really a great space for me to feel supported and so forth. So in putting that forth to the abbot, and then at roughly the same time, a guy in our community who was formerly the chaplain at Immaculata there was going to be leaving, and so there was an opening, and so it became like this thing of like, wow, that could be a good fit for me, a different ministry, exposure for potentially vocations. Yeah. So that I like to say that was a God moment of just like God providing in a way for everyone, really, and it really worked out. So it's a conversation. It's not just like you're going to be here, but there are needs. So it's like a 360-degree conversation.
For sure, looking at your gifts and
the needs of the community.
You're one of the younger guys in the community, absolutely,
Right.
That's fantastic. So, as a college student, what were you like? What kind of things were you into? Clubs or sports or intramurals?
I was into karate, actually. Nice. That was a big thing for me for 4 years. Shorin-ryu karate. It's a Okinawan style, but... What else? I was in a fraternity there that was like sports related.
Gotcha.
I did a lot of sports. And international business, which is what I was training for. I was involved in like a club related to that.
Okay.
And I would say those were the main things.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned athletics, and you're going to be a chaplain of the baseball team, and when you yourself were an undergrad, you were involved in sports, and I'm trying to find the clip where we were outside. Oh, you get some intramural stuff going on there.
We're going to be doing a camping trip coming up with guys in the spring, and that's some of the gear that we're going to hopefully use for that. So
that's great. Now, is that part of like an ongoing program or a club or something, or is this?
No, that's campus ministry. I'm trying to focus a little bit more in on the guys, because there's definitely less guys at Immaculata. I think it's like 40% guys, 60% females, because I guess what was it, 10 or so years ago was all female.
Okay.
So in trying to focus a little bit more on the guys, this is one of the areas, some things they've done before that we wanted to focus in on, and the other one is like something called Exodus 90, which is a
I wanted to talk to you about this.
That helps guys in fraternity, prayer, and asceticism, and we actually have a group of 7 going forward with that. So those are related things that I think are supporting guys, because I think guys want to feel like they have things that are just for them. Yeah. Especially in a climate that's more female.
Yeah, and spirituality is a very feminine thing. It's about connectivity and relationships. And
well, it doesn't have the trappings of masculinity, at least externally.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
there is. If I could put a plug in here, though,
Sure.
this weekend coming up, not this weekend, or excuse me, the following week. There's going to be an event called Man Up Philly, which is a men's spirituality conference that's been going on for 12 years, and this year happens to be at Immaculata.
Nice.
And so.
And you'll be there for that?
Yeah, I'll be there for that.
Fantastic.
And hopefully some of these guys as well.
And they have to pre-register for that?
Yeah,
okay.
manupphilly.com, I think it is.
Sure,
if you're still interested
easy
in going,
enough to find. Awesome. Now, what is your relationship like with the sisters, the IHMs who are on campus there? I know there's a long tradition between the Norbertines and the IHMs.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you integrate the Norbertine charism and spirituality with their spirituality and their charism?
Yeah, I'm still getting to know theirs more, frankly. But I think at this point, you know, I have Mass in the morning, most mornings at 7 a.m., actually right here in this Gillet Hall. And I guess I've gotten to know the sisters, not so much through Mass, because obviously Mass is Mass, but after Mass and my prayer, morning prayer, usually have a little breakfast, and sometimes they're in there. Yeah, there's the chapel itself.
Very nice.
So it's, I've gotten to know them a little bit that way, but for the most part, that's been how I've gotten to know them, because pretty much I work with Sister Laura and a few others now. We're actually pursuing a grant to help take the Immaculata campus ministry experience, especially around retreats, and to make that more overtly IHM. Because we're doing a lot of things that I guess at this point would be largely Ignatian, like off-the-shelf Kairos and all kinds of things that are just like, just plug and play.
They're ready to go.
And the idea is to try to make these more Alphonsian after St. Alphonsus de Liguori. And we're working on that over the next 2 years. So hopefully we're going to be in the process of getting this grant to help us in that process of creating retreat materials and training leaders and stuff. So I guess to circle back, I don't know how much I've been able to bring forth the Norbertine charism already, because I feel like I'm still trying to learn what theirs is, and that's the primary focus.
Naturally, yeah.
But I think that's a work in progress.
Definitely. What are some of the ways that, you know, I know you're new to campus, but what are some of the ways where you feel like you've been able to just dive right in?
Well, like I mentioned, I think greeting students, you know, like the lunches, campfires are some things that I've been doing there. And again, I think a lot of times we're finding that students are just a little like overscheduled. Yeah. And they don't necessarily want more activities, but more places just to kind of be. And those can be places that we found that can be helpful. Again, on and off sometimes, but sometimes they can be really fruitful. Right. Campfires, people just come and they're there, and then the next thing you know, like a significant topic comes out, and then we're talking. So I think that's part of my strength is that sort of open-ended way of engaging people.
Yes. Yeah.
But what else? Yeah, I think like maybe a little bit after Mass, again, in some of the ministries, trying to connect around, you know, I'm responsible for the liturgical ministries, getting people trained and stuff like that, and what kind of naturally flows out of that. And I guess more recently, what's happened with the guys in terms of like planning for different things. Right. You know, but I'm still trying to find my way though, too, because being a chaplain, I have a pretty defined role, but then I have my gifts too, and what I think I can contribute, and I got to try to meld those two. Yeah. And try to see if I can get the things that maybe I'm not as good at, sort of handed off. Okay. You know, so as to be able to be in my sweet spot, as they say. I hear you. You know what I mean? For sure. So. Yeah, and you cover a lot of ground in being involved with ministry, whether you're in the administrative side or whether you're more on the pastoral side. Right. You're going to be covering a lot of ground and finding yourself doing both roles no matter what. Yeah. And, you're in a good place where you know, you're familiar with the area and the student body that is drawn to this sort of campus, and they seem like really awesome students that are there. Yeah. You know, the few that I got to interact with that were around during the daytime were great to just chat with, and you know, it's always nice to like see you in your natural habitat and just kind of doing your thing with them. What would you say is something that you might like to get involved with there, or you might like to see come about on the campus that like doesn't exist yet? Do you have any sort of vision that way?
Or like any hopes for something to grow into something, like maybe this Exodus 90? You know?
Yeah. Well, I think a big thing is in a lot of places is, and I think especially at Immaculata, is reaching out to the people that are not so directly involved right now, which actually we find is more and more people. It was a poll done recently. Students had to describe their level of involvement and even describing themselves as Christians, Catholics, or whatever. And just in a few years, it went from like 60% self-described as Catholics to like 40.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And this is a regular on-campus survey?
Yeah.
That you do?
Yeah, that's done fairly regularly.
Gotcha.
And so the increase was, as we see in a lot of areas, was what's called the knowns, the people that are what they would probably call spiritual but not religious.
Oh, right.
Or even neither, you know? And so I guess the challenge would be to reach, how do you reach people that are striving? I mean, everybody's striving for something, but how do you engage people in that when they've had a bad experience of religion, they don't have any, and so where are people? Where are they at this point? And we find, I guess, there's a lot of student athletes. So I guess where I hope to be is to see how we can reach out to teams. You know, certain teams I think are really involved, but others not at all.
Okay.
So how do you create a bridge when it might not necessarily be so easy to do that and might not be so obvious.
Right.
You know, but I guess drawing people more into like a deeper dimension to their lives, you know, and I think however we can do that is important, but I think that's something that I'm hoping for the future we can do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, young people especially are seeking experience, they're seeking authentic experience, and it is a terrible thing that when someone has experienced or is experiencing some sort of hurt or trauma because of a system they are in, you know, be it a religious system or a family system or, you know, the social system, it goes on. And it's not like the authenticity of like what it is, right? It's just kind of something that it become on its own. And you want to be able to, in sharing your faith with people, to be able to connect over authentic experiences. And like you said, we're all seeking that. Yeah. Just for some, we've put up blinders to the religious words that go around and describe those experiences. But like the fact that you're doing that through athletics is awesome.
The other area too, now that I think about it, with like as you mentioned, we're all seeking authenticity, but we're kind of stymied. And I think to some degree it's because there's been woundedness. There's been things that have been less than authentic that have moved us away from that seeking. And I think that's another area too that we see that sometimes students are very they're very hesitant, you know, they're very much keeping to themselves and not wanting to engage, you know. And maybe it's not exclusively the result of the pandemic, but on some level there's a sense of like not trusting either themselves, religious figures, all kinds of people. Like we're in that sort of era. So I think I guess it's just a call to being more authentic ourselves, myself, you know, because I think that's what ultimately, beyond all the religious trappings, I think that's what ultimately calls people into a deeper life, you know. Yeah. And I think how do you do that is probably a lot towards our own individual growth and then how we can engage people, but it's not always so clear.
No, it's not. You know? It's tricky because kids are in that space where I use that term loosely because college students are older than children for sure. Just in my eyes, I always refer to kids, you know, students. But when we are talking about someone who is of that typical college age, you know, like 18 to 21 or so years old, that's a point in life where you're still very young, yet you are maturing, you're figuring a lot out, you're seeking a lot, and you need good examples, you need good models. And whether they're wearing a habit or a collar or just plain clothes, you need someone who's going to be authentic. And for you to wear the habit and to be authentic in your spirituality and in your engagement with people, like they sniff that stuff out. They know who's a fake and who's not.
In many ways, this is a great barrier.
Well, that's true too.
As much as it's helpful, and most times I am wearing my habit. Sometimes I'm wearing the clerical, the black. Like when I do a fire.
What did you call that, though? I like what you call that.
What?
The black. What do you call that? The away jersey.
Oh yeah. I
love
do refer
that,
to it because this is my home jersey.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
But when I'm away, so to speak, and I usually, when we're making a fire, and there's obviously opportunities to get really dirty, I usually would not wear this. But I feel like I have to be careful about that because to make a connection with a student in an appropriate way helps to foster further growth for them, and I just think like that is not. It's not always so clear, like even the way to do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But just an example of a guy that I know was looking to see Sister Laura more recently, who came in the office, and I was like, oh, okay, I think she'll be back in a few minutes. He's like, oh, do you mind if I talk to you? I was like, yeah, fine. So I ended up, this student was really in a tough spot, and talked to him, and we ended up going to taking him over and getting him an appointment to get some counseling and stuff. But then more recently, the guy comes over and he's very forthcoming about his situation, and it was almost like very telling of like somebody that I hardly knew that seems like he does want to trust. We have to help him make sure he understands how to do that in the right way. But I think there really is a lot of desire to connect, but to help the students know how best to do that, foster good, healthy, like connections and not unhealthy ones either.
That's right.
Because with that desire to connect, I think there's a tendency for people to overshare too, as much as undershare.
That's very true too. In this age of oversharing, online, right? Anyone can just pour their heart out on any given venue publicly. It doesn't even have to be something you're willingly subscribing to. Just put that in your face, and that definitely has a spillover into our real life interactions, and like you said, how we grow individually, right, and how we mature and develop that way, but then how we are able to engage socially as to raise the collective awareness of this engagement. That's an interesting thing. As a college student, was there like someone who stood out to you as someone that I can connect with this person, or this person gets me, or that sense of having a figure or a model that you kind of had step into your life that way?
As a college student, I had a French teacher that I ended up connecting with, and I did a program in France, like end of my freshman year. I ended up going after my sophomore year, like just ad hoc and staying with her parents. And I guess she was a person. I don't know if I'd call her a mentor, but she was a person that I felt like I connected with.
Sure.
She and her family. So, but I think that's important. Yeah, and I think probably not in the typical sense of like a mentor.
Yeah.
But I think
like a model.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't say not at that point.
Yeah, similarly, I think back to my undergraduate experience, and I had several professors who were stood out in my mind as being good models, but really didn't have like a mentor figure per se. I think a lot of that was like feeling out who I was at the time.
Right.
So.
Well, and it's funny because what we're trying to do actually from the campus ministry side is I have a person who's a work study that works with me and helps with liturgy and stuff like that. And the hope is with Sister Laura and to form like a peer ministry structure for the students so that we can be doing some mentoring of them.
Right.
Not just to be like, okay, we need these things carried out and reach out to other people, but to see if there's a need in helping them in wherever they are.
That's right. So I was going to ask, how do you encourage the students to get involved with the campus ministry?
Yeah.
So it's less outreach on your behalf, and it's more of a community kind of.
Right. Well, at this point, this has really been a year of rebuilding. Because at the beginning of this year was really zero. There was no masks.
And coming out of COVID.
And everything. So everything's been like, we're in the process of rebuilding. But I think it's just trying to take the students that we see already coming and the various things that we're doing already, Mass, serving at Mass. We offer like 4 different retreats so far per year. Who's coming to those? Who's coming to community nights, and then trying to get a flavor for what we can do, we're reaching out to like St. Joe's University, Cabrini, some other places to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then to try to say, okay, like what makes sense in terms of like a leadership structure, and then to invite people into the commitment of like, not just like a one-up, like, hey, you're going to go to this retreat, but here's what we're thinking for like a year, and making a commitment to not only some potential training, but also some, you're going to be at certain events, you're going to be doing some type of direct outreach, because really we're not as helpful as the students are themselves. And if we can help to inspire them and equip them, they're going to do much better than we are. Again, because they don't have the barriers in a certain way. Not that we don't have a role, but I think our role is more setting up them. Sure. And helping them, and
you're teaching,
keeping an eye on the big picture.
Yeah, you're in an educational environment. You're teaching through example. And it's a powerful way. Probably the most powerful way to teach is through example. I want to go back to this clip. This is at the very beginning of our little B-roll that we started here. This was one of the first things you were telling me about on campus, and we've talked about it a couple times off camera since then. But you notice you have this little lounge area here with the workout ball. And you're going to be doing, or you're already doing, a very unique program. And it's involving movement, it involves our body, it involves prayer. So would you share a little bit about that?
So I've been, as a means of trying to stay, healthy, I've been doing this thing it's a program called Pietra Fitness. And it looks externally a bit like yoga, but it actually is a stretching and strengthening program that combines Christian prayer and meditation. And I've been in the past, I guess, 3-4 months, have been starting into a program of being a trainer for that. And that involves like a year-long program of learning not only to deepen my practice, but to be able to teach this.
I wonder if our audience was wondering if you were going to do some like core exercise. You sat on the ball for a second.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the ball as a way to sit, because a chair is so like sedentary. And with the ball, you're actually moving around a little bit, which is
better
good.
Posture and everything.
But that's what this program is really about. It's trying to help you to realize that the body is a temple, and just like St. Francis spoke of the need to, or he heard the need to rebuild the church, that's constantly what we need to do. And as we age, especially, we can sort of become a little bit more, our temple starts to get a little crumbly, as they say, So this program is going to be something that I hope we can offer, maybe at the university, I don't know, maybe at the Abbey, but I'm going down the road at this point, and that involves my own practice, some practice teaching, and it also involves some like meditation, which they really encourage teachers. It's not just like a physical dimension, but this is like a spiritual practice.
For sure.
So they want you making sure you're doing daily meditation and things like that. So
that's great.
So.
Is there like chanting involved or anything like that?
There is, initially there is like prayer and intentions, then there is some meditative music, and then at the very end there's chant that's played as you're hearing the theme connected with scripture and some reflection.
Nice.
So it's trying to like hold a theme together, like it might be like courage or something, and you're hearing some words of scripture, and at the very end when you're finished the posture portion of the time and you're resting, that's when you'd be hearing chant.
Gotcha.
Gregorian chant, and it's actually from our brothers out in Orange.
Nice.
They've contracted with some, like the Norbertines for the chant. They have their chaplain is Dominican.
Okay.
So it's an interesting opportunity to really bring together a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people that practice yoga as Christians really don't understand like what necessarily yoga, its purpose is. And while there's a physical dimension that is unquestionably good, there's also things that's moving you towards that connect with the philosophy, with the Hindu philosophy. And so in my own previous practice of yoga, I came to the point where I realized like there's a lot that I don't understand about this, that I don't necessarily want to continue, but I like a portion of this. And this has helped me to kind of separate the physical and put it at the service of more the Christian
Sure, it provides a context that's much more familiar. I'm not overly familiar with, the Hindu faith. I mean, generally familiar with it, but in terms of Indian culture and Eastern culture, it's far different than what we have here in the East. And theologically, there are differences for sure. But to put it in context for people as to have it be a process that is truly yoking together, as the word union, bringing union, the word yoga means. Because otherwise, it's a disintegrated practice where you're maybe, chanting or words you don't know what they mean or whatever. Yeah, so that's very interesting, very cool. And like you said, maybe something that will be coming soon to campus or to even here at the Abbey. Yeah,
the training would be completed likely by like the fall, so it wouldn't be something immediate. But this is the path I'm heading down, and again, continued discernment and continued. Again, the sense of like, how would this work with the Abbey, with my gifts? And, again, this is an opportunity that was provided, and we'll see kind of where this goes.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it. Father Carl has asked me to be his guinea pig for a session or two as he practices his instruction side, and I'm really looking forward to it. I try and practice yoga quite regularly to keep my body limber, and I appreciate the prayerful component of it for sure. So I am excited to see how this Pietra Fitness puts it in a Christian context. Is it a Catholic context or is it Christian?
I'd say both.
Okay.
But it has a definite Catholic dimensions. Like
Gotcha.
They use the San Damiano crucifix as like a big symbol.
Okay.
Because again, that sense, they talk about the cathedral of you. Like we are the ultimate cathedral that we need to keep well built, and so that comes directly out of St. Francis and what he heard.
Yeah.
So in the prayer, the chants, and some of the things like that are directly Catholic, but I think it isn't a program just for Catholics, and I don't think it would be in any way offensive to anybody.
Right.
But it doesn't. There's certain all the postures are not. There's postures from yoga that are not in this, and all the postures are kind of renamed. And there's not any of the extreme postures that you would see. Like you see certain yogis that are twisted into a pretzel.
Or something very advanced like that.
Yeah, and it's try to really respect and listen to the body, because that's the ultimate thing. There's instructions, but then ultimately it's the spirit within that we have to tap into and listen to.
You could certainly pull or pop something if you dive into one of those advanced practices.
So,
for sure.
Yep.
Well, that's an awesome thing that you're doing, and I look forward to its potential integration here at the Abbey and hopefully on campus too. So it's great to see the many ways that you were bringing spiritual life to people, and particularly younger people on campus. And like I said before, it's so important for young people because they can just sniff it out. When someone's faking it, they just have a nose for it, and they just know that someone is faking it.
Right.
And when you're being authentic, that's recognized just as much. And that can be a challenging thing, I think, speaking from experience as a younger person in college, because like I said earlier, you're also trying to really figure out who you are. And it's only, I think, natural at times to project these images of who we think we want to be, or who we think we are onto people. And when we see them living that authentically, that maybe is a call for us to step it up, so to speak, and be more authentic, and to really seek more of who God is calling us to be, who we are. And that's a powerful thing that you can do that for people on campus.
Well, but it's recognizing giftedness, but it's also accepting weakness too. And I think that's a hard thing for people of all ages, but especially younger people. When you're young, you just want to see everything get better and better, and you're stronger and stronger. You're on the upswing, so you don't want to see what's difficult, or you haven't necessarily embraced that. But I think that's part of what helps you to see everything, which is not just like, oh, I see what's good, but I don't want to see anything else.
That's right.
I found that the Lord has used and continues to use what's been weakest for me to be actually the most helpful. But that's hard to, that's part of the mix that that I think is harder to bring forth to young people, because acceptance of self is what the Lord always has of us, and that's really what the Lenten journey is like. Come to the Lord, reveal what needs to be healed, because God wants to bless us, not because he wants to chide us or anything like that. But I think that's a harder piece, acceptance of good and bad, but towards growth.
Definitely.
In both areas,
Yeah, it's definitely a truth that our diminishments are points of growth too, if we can become aware of them and how they're in our lives. Yeah. Well, it sounds like I said before, you're doing a lot of teaching on campus here, and you're not even in the classroom yet. Do you foresee that as something that will happen?
Yeah, actually, right now I'm in the process of discerning whether I'm going to do a course that they invite a lot of people to do. It's called a first-year seminar there.
Okay.
It's a 3-credit course. One course is on life skills that they want you to help the students to shore up. But then the other 2 credits is on wellness. And it could be spiritual, it could be physical, it could be emotional. There's like a bunch of areas. And they want certain people to design a course around like these modules. And so that would be potentially something I would do for the fall. And I'm like, it looks pretty intense because I haven't actually taught in an official way before.
Okay.
So doing that where there's actually assignments and the typical stuff and not just like teaching as part of life, which is kind of like what I more like typically like to do.
Giving a homily
or just, like teachable moments.
Sure.
I mean, I think Jesus was more into teachable moments than he was giving exams. Like, okay, anybody, let's collect those and we'll get those back to you later. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Life is the exam. You know?
Yeah.
But I think to be more in a formal setting, especially when people are younger, that could be really helpful. Not only for me to grow, but also to getting connections to younger students that might not be in campus ministry or whatever. And when you're a teacher, you really get a lot of face time.
Oh, yeah.
Sister Laura knows a lot of people that have come to the office through her class.
Sure you do.
You know what I mean? And
you're hanging out with them for 40 minutes every other day or whatever it is, Yeah.
And they say, like, sometimes people say, like, it's kind of intimidating to come into our office. We're, like, down below. We're, like, in, like, a bunker almost.
Okay.
And so there's a barrier we don't realize. For us, it's like, oh, you just open the door and come in.
Right.
For other people, it's like, they're like, they don't know how to go beyond that, know. But having that connection, that face connection, sort of helps. So so
excellent.
Yeah.
Well, Father Carl, thanks so much for being with us today on this episode of AbbeyCast as we jump back into the college experience a little bit and your experience as chaplain at Immaculate University. We are grateful for all your support, for all the listeners and the viewers of AbbeyCast and all the Springhouse programs here at Daylesford Abbey. So if anyone would like to get in touch with you, do you have a good way that people can contact you at the college or at the Abbey here?
But my typical way is my email, Carl O.Praem, or letters after and at daylesford.org. That's probably the best way because it's the most direct way to get me, through email. So there you have them. Father Carl is accessible at Immaculate University and here at Daylesford Abbey, and we are grateful to have him here at the Abbey too. He was someone who I would see every once in a while on a Friday when I first started here at the Abbey back in 2020, as that's when you were still in Philly. But it really is great to have you here and see you with much more regularity. So. Thank you. Great to be here.
Absolutely. And we look forward to your continued journey as chaplain at the university. And you're how many months in at this point? About 6 months or so?
7 months.
7 months in. So you're just over half a year in, and I'm sure at the 12-month mark you'll have even more awesome things to report on. So stay tuned for all the great things that we have coming up here at the Abbey. We have a continued Lenten series, Lenten Reflections, every Tuesday. It's an in-person event, so feel free to drop in. Registration is not required. We're just taking some time to reflect in a very prayerful and contemplative way on the upcoming Sunday Scriptures from Lent. So it's a great prayerful time, and we encourage you to join us if you are able to. Otherwise, you're welcome to join us for the Triduum conferences with Sister Laura Downing of the IHM community over at Immaculate University. And, of course, the Triduum itself is a beautiful thing to take part here in the Abbey. So if you're interested in coming for that and making a retreat, please reach out to me here at the Spirituality Center, 610-601-8702. We're always grateful for your support, be it through your financial donations, your prayers, or by sharing this content online. So until next time, take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.
Amen.